Bert! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. It is the 6th of March, Sunday morning. I just got back in the kennel. Usually I tell you I'm just sitting in the kennel. I just got back, set up my recorder to do this intro. I was up in Bel Air, Michigan at the MBHA, Michigan Bear Hunters Association annual convention. My buddy Elijah asked me about 2 months ago. He says, "Hey, Ron, would you come up and be our keynote speaker?" And I'm like, "No." He said, "Please, come on." He says, "Everybody listens to your show, even though you don't have enough hound episodes." And I said, "Okay, all right, I'll do it." So I worked on a little, what do they say, like a stand-up comic. I tried to work up an hour's worth of material. I failed at working up an hour's worth, but I was up there for about a half an hour, told a few stories, told a few lies, and made a few people laugh, and that was a lot of fun. Met just a wild and crazy bunch of hunters. You know, these guys don't take a leisurely walk in the woods on an autumn day. No, it's a foot race, it's a hunt, it's a battle. Anyway, had a great time up there. So anybody who's listening that was up there, shook a lot of hands, and it was wonderful to meet you, and it was wonderful to be asked to come up there and do that. So what do we do next? We thank our Patreon patrons. Now, I'm giving you fair warning, okay? You got a HTP talk coming up here for my HTP talk tier. And the Zoom room will not be this Thursday. I'm going to be in a cigar bar in Omaha, Nebraska, because Pheasant Fest is coming up, and I was invited. So Thursday night, I will not be able to do a Zoom room for you, but on the 17th of March will be the next Zoom room, and it will be a doozy. And that's for all Patreon patrons. We're going to have some fun. In fact, my wife's out of town, so I think I'm going to bring my cigars and my beer and my computer, and I'm going to do it in the house just to spite her, just to say it's my house. I'll tell you when I can smoke cigars and drink beer in the house. I don't have to be out here in a kennel with the dogs. Anyway, so that's coming up. And Pike Gear, my title sponsor, of course, they will be at Pheasant Fest. I expect to see a lot of you there. I hope I see a lot of you there. We are going to have some fun. Pike Gear, technical clothing for the upland hunter, all their stuff's going to be on display. Onyx is going to be there. And Onyx, I can't tell you about it. Well, you know what Onyx is. You know how to get it. You can use the code HTP20 and get 20% off. But there is I'm so close to being able to release this to you, but can't do it yet. Maybe right after Pheasant Fest. We'll have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed and all that other stuff. Big news coming in from there. And I want to welcome to the lineup. A lot of you kind of asked me, like, "Hey, did you lose a sponsor?" And I said, "No, I found a better one." Welcome Weatherby. That's right, Weatherby Rifles and Shotguns to the podcast. They are my newest affiliate. And, I told you a while back I snuck out to Sheridan, Wyoming. It was a fly-out Sunday, fly-home Tuesday morning. I got to see the plant, see everything. And it's in Sheridan, Wyoming. I absolutely – well, here's the best part. Nobody has a gun sponsor that has a discount code for them, but Weatherby does. Weatherby is going to show my listeners the love. I could never get any other company to do this, but Weatherby can sell direct to you. That's right. In fact, if you live within driving range of Sheridan, Wyoming, and, of course, if you live in Wyoming, driving range could be like 8 hours because you people are used to desolation. You can go right to Weatherby and buy the gun, and you can even still use the code. Use the code HDP. Very simple. 3 letters, HDP, and you will save some money on your guns. And that code is going to fluctuate a little bit throughout the year. There's times when it's going to save you even more. We just don't know when that's going to be because they might be introducing a new gun. It might be out for a month. But just plug in HDP and watch you save some money. You look at their inertia shotguns, their gas semi-auto shotguns, and the Orion over/under. They sent me the Element, and they sent me the Orion over/under, which I shot when I was out there on the Weatherby. It's not a ranch, on the Weatherby property, I guess you'd call it, and I shot it well. I'm going to be shooting 20 gauge all year, so look out, Boss Ammo, my great ammo sponsor. I need some 20 gauge shells because I'm going to be putting these two Weatherbys through the test really hard, really quick. I want to make sure that they shoot as straight as I shot them in. I want to make sure that I wasn't just lucky when I was out in Sheridan. Boss shotgun shells are what you should shoot when you shoot a Weatherby. Everybody knows that. But you know what? They'll work good in any shotgun because they're the only copper-plated bismuth load out there. Boss shot shells will be at Pheasant Fest right in the Hunting Dog podcast pocket. We're all going to be together there, all set up, tables, chairs. You can get all your information from all the principal players at Boss. I cannot wait to do that. That is going to be such a hoot. Walton's is going to be there. They got everything but the meats, and this year they got your attention at Pheasant Fest. They will be there with a big cooking demonstration platform, putting on all kinds of seminars, everything you ever wanted to know. You can see a lot of their products when you go there, just like Purina. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of Purina products. You know they have them, but Purina has the bird dog stage with training, seminars, Q&As with some of the country's best-known dog trainers. Purina puts, you know what? That's like an old man joke. Purina is really going to put on the dog at Pheasant Fest. They always do, though. Gunner Kennels will be with me, meaning their kennels will be there. And don't forget, I'm going to have a Gunner Kennel food crate. I'm going to have a stack of entry forms, and those two Gunner Kennels are going to go home with two people on Sunday. And I'll do that Sunday morning in case you're trying to get out of the way a little bit. But I'll be taking anybody who's interested is going to be there, or you can just have somebody hold it for you. I'm not going to put these in the mail to you. But if you're there, put your name in the hat for a Gunner Kennel. I'll have a couple of brand new ones there on the floor for you to see. Kick the wheels, slam the door, see how the locks work. You'll see what I've been talking about for all these years. I'll have my Garmin products there. Brent Pike will have Garmin products there. If you haven't had your Garmin fill, they got the new TT collar, and I can't remember the name of it. Dang it, I can't remember the name of it. Son of a gun. But anyway, the collar's got 80 hours of battery life. I always said, how does Garmin make something? They're already the best name in canine training and navigation. Like, what are they going to do next? Well, there you go. They made this stuff last longer. Canine Athlete sent me 4 cases of stuff. Now, I'm not going to be giving it all away on the first day. I got to kind of divvy it out, but I got 4 cases of product from Wilderness Athlete, Canine Athlete. You can come chew the fat, see what it's about, take a sample home, try it on your dog. And here's the best part, too. I'll save W to the end. Decked. I'm not changing it. I'm on a roll. I'm at 8 minutes. We're going to get through this damn thing. Decked drawer system. It is the game changer. I don't care if you're an upland hunter, a deer hunter, a trapper, a kayaker. If you want your gear stored safely in 2 full-size drawers that pull out from your bed and still have a bed of a truck that you could put 2,000 pounds of weight on, I bet most of your trucks won't even carry 2,000 pounds. Most of you drive a half ton. It's only 1,000 pounds. But the deck storage system can carry your load and carry your gear. And Shooting Sportsman Magazine is all about people, places, guns, dogs, just everything we do. Guns, people, places, dogs, birds. That's it. Now, W Hunting Supply, they are the biggest sponsor of the Michigan Bear Hunters Association. They started drawing raffles last night, and I think the first 15 or 20 things they gave away were all donated by W, because W not only gives you the best service, they stand up for the organizations that stand up for us. And the Michigan Bear Hunters Association does stand up for us. Even if you're a bird hunter and listening to this, believe me, they're on the front lines fighting bad legislation when it comes to hunting dogs. They're just the low-hanging fruit that get picked on a lot and picked on quickly. But listen, if they go away, someday we go away. So pay attention to that stuff, okay? And let's see, when's my next episode going to come out? It's going to come out, no, I'll put out a little mini, I'm going to be there, I'm going to wait. I'll wait till Thursday when I'll put out a little short podcast and tell you all about this next little venture. That's it. All right. This episode I did at Brays Island, and I was not in the military. When I graduated high school in '75, the war was over. I did think about joining. I didn't. I went into work and got a job, but I was always kind of really my dad was in World War II, my cousins were in Vietnam, and I've always liked military history. Living in Virginia, Civil War history. I pull off on the side of the roads to read placards to see what battle happened here. And I've always been a military fan and have the utmost respect for the military. Well, at Brays Island, one of the residents there is General Walt Boomer, and he led the Marines into the first Gulf War. He led Marines and trained South Korean Marines in Vietnam in the 60s. This guy is just a history book of what's happened out there with the United States Marines. And, he was so good, they made him I shouldn't say so good. You can't be anything but good to be a Marine. But he retired as a 4-star general in the Marine Corps, and there ain't a lot of those, and there ain't a lot of them around. But we only talk a little bit about his career, and we get right into his real passion, why he lives at Brays Island, why he has German short hairs, why he loves the quail hunt, and where he came from, and his start and his finish. And I'll tell you what, I had goosebumps. I'm telling you this afterwards because I didn't do this when I recorded this with him. It was in the afternoon. I got to have dinner with him, with his wife and a couple other people. And then we went back to the general's house for cocktails after dinner. It was like some dreamland. Oh, my God. I'm still excited about it. But you know what I did as soon as I got to the general's house? He said, come on, Ron, I want to show you my dogs in the kennel. I wanted to look at all the things on the walls and pictures of him with, presidents and all these other famous people. And he's like, come on. That's just a bunch of pictures on the wall. Come here. I want to show you my dogs. Oh, he's got some nice dogs. Anyway, General Walter Boomer, USMC retired. Enjoy this episode. Hey, everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. I just got done hunting some quail with some fine dogs with General Walter Boomer. And I asked him to come back over here to Chris Dorsey's place and tell a few yarns, lie about his dogs a little bit, and get a little background on you. So welcome.
Great. Good to be with you.
It's a pleasure. Give me the little backstory of Walter Boomer growing up out here.
Well, I grew up in a small town in North Carolina named Rich Square, about 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. I think it's shrunk since I was there as a boy.
Okay.
An agricultural-oriented town that you were either a farmer or you provided service to a farmer.
Right.
Which my dad did. And all there was to do was work, go to school, hunt and fish.
Or was the emphasis on the school, or was the emphasis on the hunting and fishing?
My mother made certain it was on the school.
Okay.
For sure. But I had two friends that are still there, as a matter of fact.
Still living in the area there?
Still living in the area. Both did well. One's a dentist, the other construction. And every moment we had, we were off hunting.
All the time?
All the time. And the beauty of that, Ron, was that our parents could just let us go. Right. The Roanoke River flowed by the town, but it was about 4 miles away. We would actually walk to what we call the river and hunt by ourselves. We didn't know what the heck we were going to find. Deer had not come back.
Oh, okay.
Then they hunted deer with dogs.
Right.
They wouldn't have known what a deer stand was to save their life. They do now, of course. Yeah. But we would look for deer. We'd look for turkeys. there were a few bird dogs in the community, but most of the folks worked so hard.
Just keeping up a pet like that was probably out of the equation.
Well, yeah, and the time that it would take.
Right.
But there were several families, and my friend's father hunted birds, and he also had great turkey dogs.
Really?
Yeah. So we would try to hunt quail as best we could.
Right.
I can't imagine what it looked like. And occasionally we would hit one.
Right, right.
But, yeah, that's what we did. The first time, I remember this vividly. I was 12 years old, and my mother ruled the roost.
It's most families.
Dad was a great guy, but she ruled the roost.
Right.
And I remember they were doing some kind of supper, getting ready for a supper at the schoolhouse. You know how those small town things worked. And I said, okay, now's the time. So I went up and I said, Mom. She said, yes, son. She was a sweetheart, but she could be stern. She knew something was up.
I said, just by the tone of the question.
Can I go hunting by myself this afternoon? Now I'm 12. She takes a deep breath and says, yes. So from that point on, Katie barred the door.
that was
squirrel hunting.
Yeah. What were you using? Family 22? It was 410 or
single shot 22.
That's it.
That was it.
Now, I would assume you had to work for the ammunition too, though, right? I mean,
it
wasn't like you could just go into buffet drawer and grab a handful of 22 shells.
No, you couldn't do that. My dad had this. I don't even know what make it was, but it says something about his passion for hunting. He had a bolt action 12 gauge.
I've seen them.
Yeah. I wish I still had it because even then I thought dead. But
right. And these days you'd be like, how do I get the second shot off?
Oh yeah.
That's a chore in itself.
Well, he grew up in Hyde County, North Carolina, near Lake Mattamuskeet, and right. So we had relatives there. So once a year, anyhow, he would take me there to go goose hunting.
Oh, nice.
And I have great memories of that. It was good. The duck hunting there was great too, but there was no way my dad was going to hit a duck. But
he certainly wasn't going to get a second shot off.
No, he wasn't going to get a second shot.
Maximum bird per shell with geese.
At any rate, I appreciate him taking me. So. But, once I left college and went into the Marine Corps, I, in essence, pretty much gave up my passion for hunting and fishing to a degree because there simply wasn't time.
Right.
We were just so committed. But I'm trying to make up for it now.
Yeah, you are. I've interviewed a few people older than me, and I love when I interview somebody older than me. It makes me feel just a little like I got a little more time left.
You have plenty of time, my friend.
And every time the story rings with that same kind of about 12 years of age.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times where you were allowed to bring your shotgun to school or on the bus or anything like that and hunt your way home.
It wasn't quite like that at home, but if you wanted to, you could have.
It wasn't prohibited.
It wasn't prohibited.
Right.
No.
It's just a neat picture in your head that you could be 12, 13-year-old kid, go put the gun in the locker or the principal's office.
Sure.
And I've had several people tell me that, and I'm like, I'm almost jealous.
Yeah.
There was a day and time.
There was a day and time.
Where your parents like, he's bringing his gun to school.
And I actually hunted once with our high school principal.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I grew up in the city of Chicago, and we had a disciplinarian named Mr. Kittredge. And I never cut school. My mom was the same way. She was in charge of the house.
Yep.
Not a hunting family, but I had friends that we started doing whatever we could with bow and arrows and slingshots and what have you. Well, we got into it through a friend's dad. We got into some trap shooting and skeet shooting, and it was really rare for our high school, for anybody in the school to be like that. And we all decided there's always like a senior cut day, senior ditch day.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of took our own senior ditch day, and I never ditched school, and I did, and I got caught. and my mom had to come up to the high school, and
Not good.
not good, not ever good. And she used to have to come up to grade school every once in a while because that's when I was, just getting a little crazy. And then high school, there was enough good teachers to keep you in line if you were able to be kept in line. And anyway, so she's sitting there and she's not looking at me. And Mr. Kitteridge says, "So Ron, what was so important that you had to miss school yesterday?" And I said, "Well, we went to Buffalo Rock Shooting Preserve out in Ottawa, Illinois, and we just thought it was kind of like our seniors cut day." And then he says, "What were you shooting?" I said, "Well, we were just shooting trap, not skeet." He goes, "What were you using?" I said, "Remington 1100 that I got from so-and-so's dad. My dad bought. I wasn't old enough to buy it then. I graduated high school at 17." And he says, "Well, that sounds like that was an excellent day." And my mother is starting to get hot because she, with her bunions, had to walk to school.
Yeah.
And find out that me and Mr. Kitteridge are now, he's not even mad at me.
Yeah,
and,
that's a great story.
Yeah, and so that was as close as I came to bringing a gun to school. But at least it was still friendly. It was still friendly.
Well, I linked up with some friends in college who liked to hunt.
Right.
And we carried on that tradition, even after we had graduated.
Right.
But I was headed, my mother grew up in Norfolk, so I was headed for the Navy in her mind, in her dream.
Right, right.
For me, it was to be a Navy officer. So I was in Naval, ROTC, and Marine Corps was much more appealing. And the major there and the gunnery sergeant there were people that I looked up to. So I came home and said, "Mom, I'm not going into the Navy." She looked at me and said, "Son, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going into the Marine Corps." She looked at me and said, "Over my dead body," and stomped out of the room.
Isn't it terrible when you disappoint your mom?
But, she came to realize, she passed away very early, sadly. A great tragedy in my life to lose my mom so early. But before she passed away, she realized that it was the right decision for me. Yeah.
What was that journey like? So out of college, you went into
I went right into the Marine Corps out of college.
What year was that?
1960.
1960.
Yeah.
You don't look that old.
Well,
You don't look that old.
I should say, sadly, I am, but I'm happy to have great health.
You get up in the morning and see you're not even ready for Social Security when you look in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
That's a good
Something like that.
It's a good picture.
And I never intended to stay, really. I was going to serve for 2 or 3 years, do my, fulfill my obligation.
Right.
But then it continued to resonate with me, so 34 years later, I finished it up.
How does one, you don't get to be, and again, I am not a military historian, and if I get ranks and stars and things wrong, we're not going to go into all that.
No.
But how does one go from, college age to a 4-star general? I mean, is this a path, or is this
No.
Or is there a little bit of luck involved? How does that work?
I think there are 2 things involved. The first is work. Work and dedication and some luck.
And some luck. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you went in 60.
Yeah.
So everything was going on in Southeast Asia, and then.
Well, the first thing that was going on was the Cuban Missile Crisis. So we found ourselves at Guantanamo guarding the base. I was a young lieutenant then. But then Vietnam was,
Calling.
Actually, it was calling, and I think Vietnam and Mac Hastings were the great British author who just wrote a fantastic book on Vietnam. Vietnam was an epic tragedy, but it was what I did. It was my profession, and I was hell-bent to get there.
To do it, yeah.
Yeah, and I did.
Yeah.
I was there the first time in 66, 67 as an infantry company commander. I was 28 years old. I had 220 guys in my command. And we lived, in essence, in the jungle and fought. And then came back, survived that tour.
Did you think of retiring then or getting out then?
No.
Because now you're into like
No, now
you're in like 5-6 years in now or so or more.
Yeah, I a little more.
Yeah.
And came back, had some tours, one in Washington, the usual stuff that you sort of have to do in your career path. And the U.S. Marines had left Vietnam, but my friend who was we call them the monitor, who was my personnel overseer. We were the same rank, but that was his job to figure out where you were going to go.
Right.
So he called me and said, "It's time to go back overseas, Walt, without dependents." And I said, "Okay, what are my choices?" There was an advisory unit in Vietnam. And I said, "Okay, send me there." So I went back again, 71, 72, as an advisor to the South Vietnamese Marines.
Wow.
So there were two of us, for example, 2 American Marines with a South Vietnamese infantry battalion, and we lived with them,
Just
day in, day out.
just like in the same camp, same everything.
Oh, everything.
Yeah, same barracks.
Ate,
same
slept.
everything. Yeah.
Well, there wasn't any barracks.
No barracks? You don't even get a barracks?
No.
What, you get a tent?
Yeah. Occasionally we'd get a tent.
Occasionally.
I spent part of the monsoon season with them living in a concrete culvert. God, was that miserable.
In a concrete culvert.
Yeah. Well, it was out of the rain.
How glamorous.
There's nothing glamorous about it.
Oh, my God.
And then, of course, if you remember any of Vietnam, there's no reason why you should.
Right.
71, and Easter of 72, the North Vietnamese invaded, thinking they could take over the country then. And we managed to hold them off. My battalion got overrun, but we managed to make it back, regrouped, and in essence saved the country, if you want to call it that.
Right.
But then, of course, in 75, they came back again and took it.
Right. And that's
So
when it was basically
that's when it was done.
done, yeah.
In 75. So then from there, a lot of great jobs.
D.C. and other countries and stuff like
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Because to some degree you're in the public affairs business, so to speak, with what you do. I got promoted to Brigadier General, and all of us who got promoted felt like we'd been struck by lightning.
Wow.
Because there were only 10 out of several hundred candidates, so you thought, if you had any brains, you thought, holy cow, why me? Because Joe over there is a lot smarter, and we really thought that was the truth. We felt that way about each other. Anyhow, I'm an infantry officer. So I go in to the commandant's office, and he said, "Congratulations, Walt." I said, "Thank you, sir." Standing there at attention in front of his desk. And he said, "You're going to be the new public affairs officer for the Marine Corps." And I'm thinking, I'm trying not to keep a straight face, but I'm thinking,
You're kidding.
He's got to be kidding.
Right.
There's no way. No way that I should be going to an infantry division.
Right.
I mean, God knows lightning just struck me, and now it struck me down.
Now it's just bounced back and hit me in the ass.
I went home,
Public
and
relations.
my wife put up with my moaning for about 24 hours, and she said, "Get out of here and go back to work." Turned out to be a great job. I made more friends. It really prepared me for a lot of things that I had to do later on. I made a lot of friends in the media.
It just sounds funny, right? Public relations.
My
It's
gosh.
like, how do we do that? You want me to get up on a street corner and? But I'm sure it was the details we'd need days to go through. But
but
it turned out
okay.
Turned out okay.
Yeah.
And then you ended up.
Well, I ended up as a lieutenant general commanding all the Marines during the first Gulf War.
Okay.
And I think we all came home feeling good about what we had accomplished. I felt we did it right. We went in, accomplished the mission, liberated Kuwait,
Yeah.
and came back home.
Right. In fair shape.
In fair shape.
Yeah.
And we brought all of our equipment back. I had most of the Marine Corps equipment.
Really? I thought they always left that stuff.
No. That's just a recent phenomenon.
Oh, is it? Okay. You guys don't leave people or equipment behind, right?
Nope.
Well, that's just, from a layman, the closest I came to the military was in high school. I graduated high school in '75.
Okay.
And I told my dad I was not destined for college, so I thought I'd go in the Army. And he immediately had two of my cousins, Bob and Tom, come over. I was the youngest, and I had older sisters, and all my cousins were older. And they both had just come back from Vietnam in recent years.
Yeah.
And they about thrashed me. They said, "You don't want." Yeah, but I want to. No, you don't want to. And
I got it. Yeah.
And I was like, "But I want to fight. I like to fight. I like everything." I probably never wish what you can't. You can't.
Well,
you don't know what you wish for.
No,
Be careful what you wish for. I should say.
Exactly. And
But I've always, and I think like most people, I know everybody that listens to this podcast, when you hear somebody that's put that much time into something, now you just got to figure out. Well, now we got to get to the good part. Now you got to figure out how many years you can play with the dogs.
yeah. Now let's talk about dogs.
Right.
That's what we sat down to do.
Right. I just figured a couple people would want to know a little bit about you. But so when you retired.
I retired from the Marine Corps,
and grand plan
I went into business for another decade.
Oh, okay.
So I had the great good fortune to run a public company called Rogers Corporation. But when I retired for the second time, it was truly time to go hunting.
Right.
And I really started big game hunting. Went to Africa for the first time, which is an interesting story, but got there, loved it, and have been back 10 times,
wow.
I think.
So long plane rides don't deter you?
No, long plane rides don't deter me. And, I loved every minute of it. I love the African people. But it's funny now, at this point in my life, what I want to do is bird hunt.
Just that.
I don't need to shoot another big animal, big critter.
Right.
Those animals that I wanted to hunt in Africa, I was successful in doing so. So one of the last trips that I was in Africa was a bird hunting trip.
Ooh, there we go.
Marvelous.
Now we're getting into the good stuff.
Marvelous. We were on the Rovus Rail. It's fantastic. Bird shooting was fantastic.
Did you peel off from a group from a safari to do it, or you went?
No,
back
we went specifically with a group, primarily from Braze Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not exclusively, but a gent named Tony Macris who did Under Wild Skies for a long while.
I remember that.
Yeah. Put the trip together, and we had a great time. You'd come back, you'd hunt all day, and come back to a very luxurious.
Not a culvert.
Setup. Not a culvert. No,
okay.
on this train.
Yeah.
But
so the train took you through the countryside?
Train takes you through the countryside
Wow.
and stops, and you get out and shoot.
Oh.
Everything from geese to guinea fowl to pigeons to doves.
Wow. So they just kind of see if they saw a body of water with birds, you might get out.
They knew where they were going.
They've done this before,
they had
obviously.
Yeah, they had arrangements with various outfitters, and they would stop, and you would hunt geese there, and then you'd get on, and you'd hunt
the geese.
You'd hunt the geese during the day. You'd get back on, you'd move, and then you'd hunt pigeons the next day or doves.
Right.
A couple of species of doves. The guinea fowl were a trip. They're a big bird.
Yeah, that's like a little
and
half turkey.
And they fly well.
How do they eat?
They eat well too.
Do they?
Yeah. Everything ate well.
Everything.
But when I retired from business, my wife Sandy and I were looking for a place to finally put down some roots because we'd moved. Sandy will tell you 22 times, but
Oh my God.
so, I accuse her of double counting because, for her moving there, you have a psychologist explained this to me. What you're asking her to do is to pick up the nest, which she's carefully put together,
Right.
to pull it all up and put it in another place.
Yeah.
Okay.
And nature doesn't ask that of animals,
No.
right?
And
No.
then when you leave, you got to pull it up again. So she would say, "Yes, I moved 22 times, but we did move a lot. But we were looking for a place to really settle down. We lived in Connecticut, which was where the company headquarters was
Right.
located at that time. Enjoyed Connecticut a lot, but we both had southern roots,
Right.
so to
right.
speak.
Yeah.
And she read about Braze Island in either the Wall Street Journal or New York Times, I don't remember which, and she said, "This looks like a place you would like." I said, "Yeah, it sure does, but I got some work to do before I can go." So we came down. I was asked to come down and give a speech at Paris Island, or talk at Paris Island.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Let's look at Braze Island." So we looked at a couple places here, and when I drove aboard Braze Island, and I knew I was home.
Right.
Took a little longer for her, but it's home now.
Was it a little too secluded almost?
Almost.
Yeah.
We're in the countryside.
Yeah.
And we maintain this place as if we were still in the countryside,
Right.
as you have seen.
Yeah, I got a nice tour of it yesterday.
And she's a passionate cook, so going into town, by the time she's parked, it's 40 minutes
Right.
to the grocery store.
Right. And it wasn't like that in Connecticut or probably a
No,
lot of the
no,
other
no, no.
places. Yeah.
So, but she's adjusted, and we both have, and we've been here now 16 years.
Wow. Dog history. So when did you get that first dog that you should have had when you were in your 20s or 30s?
You're
like the rest
exactly
of
right.
us?
The first dog was connected with Braze Island,
Okay.
and we're going to have dinner tonight with the guy who I bought that first dog from.
Oh, really?
We were here. We owned a lot. We had not built our home.
Yeah.
But we were here to visit. And he was walking into what was in our grill. We've since expanded it. And he had this short hair with him. And Sandy said, "I want that dog."
That's it. It's just
He was a young short hair. His name was Morgan, and that was our first bird dog.
right. So he was a started dog then?
He
Or getting ready
had
to
been
be?
started, yeah. But we did a lot of work with him, and I trained him mostly because we didn't have a dog trainer here at Braze Island during that time. So I was reading books.
I was going to ask you.
I was reading books. I don't remember the names of the
Right.
book, but I was reading. Okay, how do I train this dog?
Right.
And he turned out really well. And the dog that I have now, the last dog that I bought, came from the same gentleman, a different line.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan was a great dog. We both loved him. He could be a little aggressive with other dogs if they got in his space. He would not ever go after one.
Right.
But
He was like the Irish kids I went to school with.
yeah, if he's here and you come into his space, Katie barred the door.
Right.
So I always had to keep my eye on him, but he was fine.
But that was mostly dogs, though.
Yeah. I never had a.
Most of them don't have a.
I didn't
people
have an
problem.
issue with
No.
him with people, unless he was asleep and you stuck your hand in his kennel and kind of surprised him. And
Well.
Sandy did that one time and learned a lesson.
Didn't do it twice.
No.
Hot stove lesson.
But then we bought. So we liked the short hair breed,
yeah.
and then we bought another one. from another acquaintance.
Right.
I don't.
Somebody that knew somebody.
Somebody that knew somebody. Yeah.
Started from a pup that time? Pup?
Started from a pup, and by that time we had someone here who I could learn from.
Right.
In terms of training my own dog, and who helped. So both of those dogs, of course, we are now, they're gone.
Right, right.
Then bought another short hair from a plantation here, and we bought her because they wanted to get rid of her because she's not a big running dog. They were hunting from horseback at the time.
Right.
So I took her out, really liked her, and she's now 12. Beautiful, beautiful little hunter, and Sandy's little princess. I tell
Does
people,
it get a birthday cake?
I tell people, you can shoot me, pal, but if you shoot this dog,
it's all over.
You're in trouble. Anyhow, of course.
Well, now she's going to also take care of it because the dog's elderly, right? Now it's
yeah.
Yeah, it gets.
Oh, yeah, the dog gets wrapped in a blanket in her kennel.
Yeah.
It's almost funny to tell, but she gets wrapped in her blanket every night on her bed in the kennel and
Kind of
told good night.
Kind of tuck in good night
Yeah,
story.
honest to goodness. And then we were just with one dog. And
Right.
one of the things about hunting here, which is it's marvelous hunting here.
Right.
I mean, I can, as you know, from what you've seen, I can be quail hunting in 10 minutes.
Right. Right.
But you have to be careful about the heat.
Yeah.
So you really, I feel like I need two dogs at least. So we bought another German short-hair puppy who I think has the potential maybe to be the best bird dog I've ever had, but she's a work in progress. Oh my gosh, she's a real challenge.
How old's this one now?
Well, I thought she was 2, but Sandy said no, she's not. She's gonna be 3 late summer.
Okay.
But she's one of these dogs that just. I think you and I were talking yesterday. She's still an adolescent at heart. You can see it in her, the way she acts.
Yeah.
Big.
Especially when you've had a couple others to compare to.
Yeah, but a wide, big running dog.
Yeah.
You could hunt this dog from horseback, no problem.
And probably she'd be happy.
Oh, she would be happy.
Let me stay. Let me get out there.
She won't run away.
Right.
She will always come, but in a split second, she can be
200.
darn near 200 yards.
Yeah.
Which here is not that good a thing. But I think over time, I hope
she's going to keep you putting your steps in.
She will keep me putting my steps in. You're exactly right. So I don't mind too much. And she's a sweet dog. We'll get there with her.
Right, right.
And a very pretty dog as well. Beautiful dog. But I missed a dog in the short hair
lineage line
tail that I was telling you. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of an interesting story, at least to me. I grew up in this little town that I was telling you about earlier, of 1,000 people. I got a phone call out of the blue, and this would have been 10 years ago, from a man who is younger than me, but he had gone on to college from this little town, had become a doctor, and he wanted to look me up and see where I was and what I was doing. So we had a nice conversation, and I was telling him about Braze Island and the fact that I love to quail hunt, and that, oh my gosh, that set him off. He said, I am having one last litter of puppies. They're pointing labs. You have to have one. And I'm thinking, I've heard this pointing lab story before.
Right, and then you've had short hairs.
And I've had short hairs.
So
I said, okay. So he told me all about them, and I said, well, who's doing all this for you? I said, I know you're too busy to be worried about
chief trainer and bottle washer and
everything.
everything.
and even having the puppies there. And he said, well, it's a retired Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant. I said, okay, it's meant to be.
Right.
Bought the dog Ron, and sent her to Colorado. And the lady's name is escaping me. I wish I could remember it because I think so much of her. She specializes in training pointing labs. So sent her right there. And this dog came back. I actually went out to pick her up, hunted with her. This dog was magic. She was a true pointing lab.
Really?
We have a little field trial here at we have so many dogs we love and we love them so much here at Braves. We have our own little
residential field
trial.
Yeah.
And
in fact, there's one Saturday I'm going to miss.
Yeah, I wish you could see that because it's fun. So I told some of my friends, I said, I think I'm going to enter Ginger in this pointing. They said, pointing lab, yeah, right. She won. She won. But she was such a smart dog. I could take her duck hunting, and she'd never been trained to hand and arm signals.
Right.
But I could put her up. I did train her to sit up on the platform. She would sit there and watch until you shot a duck and retrieve it. She'd just go get it.
Just there.
Yeah. And I'm sure over time I did lose a duck or two with her, but not very many.
She really paid attention.
Yeah. And sadly, she contracted kidney disease at age 6.
Yeah.
None of the vets could figure it out. We did everything we could.
Right.
And couldn't save her. But so she was the other dog injected into this line of German Shorthair.
So we're definitely pro pointing lab then in this family after that dog.
Oh yeah.
Do you see another one down the road ever?
I don't see another one down the road, but she was a marvelous dog. I've heard people say, and I know you have heard it hundreds of times in your line of work, but you have one special dog in your life.
Right.
She was a special dog in her life. But
I try not to abide by that.
I know.
I'm saying I've had 3, and maybe it's just I'm not a parent that could dislike one of the kids.
Yeah.
Maybe I love them all too much.
I love them all, but in terms of just
certain things
innate
they do
intelligence and everything else, this dog
sometimes it takes time to look back at it and go, my God, this dog never caused me any grief. This dog
none.
Just like, then you remember them dogs, you're like, oh, that day I screamed his name for 15 minutes. And then you're like, that dog didn't. There are some of them that are connected to you in a almost like a movie script sense.
Right. This young dog that we have, I'll give you an example of the way she operates.
Mm-hmm.
She's next door to the older dog, and I was telling you about how Sandy comes in and puts the blanket over the older dog.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we both went out of the morning early. We feed them early, and I heard Sandy raising Cain. She's not a profane person, but she was pretty profane that morning. This young Shorthair somehow had gotten the blanket, pulled it through
the little fence hole,
sure, taken it outside in the outside portion of her kennel and chewed it up.
Now, sounds like jealousy, boredom, and something else.
Yeah, I think both. Yeah. Jealousy, boredom, and one of the things, this dog has been a learning experience for me. Fortunately, we're busy. I can't exercise her enough, it doesn't seem like.
Right. She just got that much run.
Got that much run.
Right. And how's she got an off switch for the house or the kennel? I mean, she doesn't pace the kennel all day long or anything.
No. Yeah. She has an off switch, absolutely. Yeah. But one of the things that we're starting to do now, and I should have done it earlier, is we're starting to bring her, and you can tell me if you think this is a good idea, starting to bring her into the house each evening and teach her place and let her sit down calmly with us. Now,
maybe feel she's more of the family.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a chore because she wants to smell everything in the house. But I think that's going to help her, too. I wish I had started that earlier with her.
You know, I've heard, years ago I was interviewing Ronnie Smith down in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And, I was asking, what's the difference from when you started to now? And I've said this many times on the podcast and quoted him. He says, I'm training people's house dogs now where I used to be training people's hunting dogs.
Yeah.
But he said, like, the downside is the dogs they have to get acclimated to kennel life, and it's kind of an adjustment period for them. But they're better connected to the people.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, we're doing something together. And back in the day, certainly when you grew up and when I grew up, if somebody did have a bird dog, it was always in a kennel. There was no such thing as
no such
in fact,
thing.
Most dogs didn't come in.
Most dogs
didn't come in the house.
My mother didn't allow any dogs in the house. And this dog will always be primarily a kennel dog because we have, when we built the house, we built a nice set of kennels for them.
Right.
But I think bringing her in just for a little while in the evening will help.
Yeah, yeah. Now, will she sit
maybe
there
maybe some of your listeners have some idea about that. I don't know.
I'm sure we could get some feedback
Yeah.
on that. But when you bring her in, is it like trying to get her to sit by you and just kind of petting her, or just letting her? I guess it's got to come slow, It
has to come slow.
Yeah.
I bring her in, and I just bought another little pad for her. Sit her on and trying to teach her place, as a command.
Right.
And then right now I'm keeping her there with, she loves a bone.
Oh, bone.
She loves an antler bone to chew.
Yeah.
She'll lay there and chew on that bone until she gets a little bit bored. But, my half-baked theory is that
Connect with her more.
it will,
Right.
because she loves affection, and she gets a lot of affection. It's not like she's starved for affection.
Right.
But I think being with us a little more in that setting will help. And she's very jealous of the older dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I don't hunt them together because I alluded to the fact earlier that she likes to play. She still likes to play. And I don't necessarily want to destroy that.
Right.
But she had an incident with the older dog in which she wanted to jump in the older dog's face, play, wrestle.
Like, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and the older dog wanted no part of that.
Right.
She growled first, and then Bella, the young dog, which you would have thought would have backed off,
Said, listen,
no,
listen, old lady.
and she hurt the older dog.
Oh.
So we've got to reacquaint them. I'm thinking sometime this summer because it's just important. But
I've had that problem. But
what did you do?
With male, well, you might not like this answer. I had wire hairs for quite a few years, and they are absolutely known for, if there's a breed of dog that's going to be more owly with other dogs, it's a male wire hair.
Right.
Just comes with the territory. And so I had a son from him, and then I had a purchased dog from him. And right about 2, when the first one, his son, got to be about 2, and they'd sleep on the same bed with me. I had a camper. I was living in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. And before I bought the house there, this farmer who actually raised all my game birds, he raised them for hunters in the area, he let me park my camper outside of his generator house. I had these 2 dogs they were my camper dogs.
Yeah.
It was heaven. And I'm sitting there taking a snooze on this little bump-out couch, and all of a sudden, the 2 of them, with some unspoken whatever, whether he said something or he said something, there was a dog fight going on in front of my face.
Serious fight. Yeah.
And fortunately, I'm not Hercules, but I've been in construction my whole life, and I still had some gur, and I grabbed, and I'm a proponent of never take a collar off a dog. I know my daughters do it, and they're dog people.
Yeah, I keep a collar.
If I didn't have those 2 collars, I probably would have got bit. They would have definitely, one of them would have got really, it was scary. It was. I've had dog fights that were not this.
Yeah, it's a frightening thing because these two were at it the same way, and it was obvious to me. And Sandy was there,
right,
screaming.
Yeah,
and I don't blame her for that.
right.
And I darn near got bit.
Yeah, and that's
getting
no
them separated.
Yeah,
and what I didn't do was calmly go over and get the hose and separate them because. I wasn't thinking.
Well, yeah, there's a panic moment there.
There is a panic moment
Right.
there, and one dog's getting hurt.
And that's all you're thinking of.
That's all I was thinking
Right.
of. But I did the same way. I have collars on mine. I managed to get them apart.
Right.
So we've got to later on this summer bring them back together. They seem to be their kennels are side by side. I don't see any animosity now.
They're not fighting through the fence.
No,
right.
none of that.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful.
I don't have the experience with the females. If it was something they had to go through, I did have a female short hair and a female wire hair that would crate together. And one morning, and at breakfast, the two of them were in my truck fighting.
Yeah.
Bloody ear came out of it. In fact, they didn't have enough room to get good position on each other. But these two males, I had them stiff-armed. And kind of like a gym teacher holding two 8th graders up against the wall.
And at that point, they have lost it too.
Oh, yeah.
They've totally lost it in terms of.
This is a three-way fight now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I literally kicked the camper door open, tossed one outside, grabbed it, closed the door. He said, he's out here, he's in here. And it's just like I had to breathe for a minute, And I was like, how could this happen to me? It's something that it's so scary.
It's actually a terrible experience,
it feels
quite
like
honestly.
a Stephen King chapter of
it's a terrible experience.
Thing, and got him calmed down, snuck out the door, put him in their kennels, and I had to just make sure they won't birth on the ground at the same time together. They wouldn't fight in their kennels.
Yeah.
At that point, they were living in my truck kennel, and then when I bought the house, the first thing I did was build kennels. But good friends of mine in that world, in the world I've been involved with is in the versatile dog world, not the field trial world. They said they're going to be enemies and they're going to try to kill each other again.
Yeah.
And I took them at their word, and I let my guard down. And a buddy of mine had one on the leash, and I said, "Here, hold him." I was going to let him hunt because I thought, well, they'll be all right if they just go out and hunt.
Yeah, sometimes they will be.
It's like it's not home. It's
distracts them
different
from
sight picture.
Exactly.
Certainly, I would not want to watch television on the couch again with the two of them. And they didn't even get to clang teeth, but it was like they went for it again. And I ended up selling that dog to a fellow in North Dakota.
Yeah.
And another young male that came up, and everyone said, "Well, get rid of Zygon." I said, "Yeah, but he's one of them dogs." This dog would go to DU banquets with me, and I took him through the trained retrieve, and I took him through really advanced, like lab work with overs and backs. Yeah. And for a wire hair, he was fantastic at it. And I would bring him into places and have him open up a igloo cooler and bring me beer at a banquet. So I was like, I can't get rid of my star, but I got a feeling the trainers back in the day would have got rid of their star.
Yeah.
Because I think it was him more than the kids just flexing their teenage muscles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You built kennels. You have experience with building kennels.
Yeah.
We have an owner's kennel here. We have so many dogs.
Right.
The plantation, I think, probably has about 50. And then we have an owner's kennel. So if you take a trip, you can put your dog there in the kennel.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to improve that. Maybe if you have time today, you could take a look at it and offer some advice. But
sure.
You may be busy. But
right.
If not, I'd love for you to do that.
Yeah. There's not. My advice comes from more like where I'm living. It was a necessity to find. I wanted to have a raised platform. I didn't want the dogs running in the poop and the pee.
Yeah.
Because most kennels are concrete, spray it down.
This one's concrete.
Yeah. I use a special grading an industrial grading, and my kennels are all raised off the floor. Mm-hmm. It's something that I preferably really like.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just a maintenance thing. I don't know, but I'd be glad to,
Sure. Okay.
The amount of places I've seen over the years traveling is, something I'd say, well, you know what I would do? So, hey, if I can come up with what I would do idea, I'd be glad to share it.
Okay.
Yeah. We had a discussion when we met briefly the other night, and you said, I want to talk to you about this, about steadiness in dogs.
Yeah.
and it is a never-ending
I know.
magazine. Someone's going to write about it once a year, and the ideas. And we had, I hunted with Domenico's dogs yesterday.
Yep.
And then I hunted with Scott's pointer and cocker today.
Yeah.
And in this situation, especially, coming into some place I don't know, and, it's easy when you hunt by yourself.
Yeah.
It's not hard. You're probably not going to make a mistake, and it's certainly not going to be somebody else's dog, right? So, the pros and cons of having a dog that's steady. And, the people who don't steady them up and just have them say, they let you do the flushing. So that's steady to flush. Then they're steady to wing, steady to shot, steady to fall. I've taken a few of my dogs through that advance. Come hunting season, you go back about 2 notches usually. But where I feel it comes in real handy is if you can maintain a dog that's steady to wing, if it's a unsafe shot and there's another covey bird there, or there's a few birds, that dog isn't immediately chasing.
Exactly.
Because he's steady at least to wing. Now, the trick is the one guy takes a poke at it, not a dog hears the shot, but he's actually chasing a healthy bird.
Yeah.
And you don't have the point anymore, and he could be running over birds.
Exactly
But
right.
Most people don't get there with their dogs.
It's interesting. You met our dog trainer,
Head trainer here, Scott.
Head trainer Scott this
Yep.
morning. We had Bella almost steady to wing and shot.
Yeah.
And then I was hunting with her, and when you're hunting, you're not paying enough attention to the
You're
dog.
not the dog handler. You're the
You're
shooter.
not the dog handler.
Yeah.
And at that stage, she began to lose that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I do want her. My other dogs have been steady, steady to wing and steady to shot. It's safer for them.
Yep.
And this young dog that I've been telling you about, is one of the best retrievers I've seen, even amongst friends' dogs.
Right.
And when I tell you that she will retrieve as good as that cocker did today,
I've seen short hairs.
I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
And she loves that. So one of the reasons I won't go the cocker route is because she loves to retrieve so much.
Right.
I just don't have it in my heart to take it away.
Right.
But I'm coming back to, I think we're going to work on her. And
Well, I think some of that just more advanced steady work, especially with Scott here to help you with it.
Yep.
You've got the resources. That's another. You're not going to be able to sleep in bed with her. You're going to bring her in the house to connect more with her.
right.
But the more you train her is another form of connection for the dog, too.
Yeah.
And I think if it's done right, dogs do not resent being steady to wing, shot, and fall. And
Yeah, well,
and
that
if
was a
you're-
question I had, and
Right.
I'm happy to hear that you feel that way because,
Here's
we
the one-
love our dogs.
Right.
We want them to be happy,
Well,
happy hunters.
And I'm on your side with when I watch the pointers.
Yeah.
I got to quit saying English pointer because it just never gets off my tongue. But
Right.
it used to be okay. But watching the pointers, that dog didn't look unhappy holding point for as long as 10 minutes sometimes while we were coming back in.
Neither of them did.
But part of me is like, my dog wants to retrieve too. But then pointers are so bred. And when Scott comes on to do a podcast, I'm going to dive into that with him.
Yeah.
And historically, the ones who ran the trials, those pointers
Yeah.
and those setters, there was no retrieving emphasis because in their big trials, you're just using a blank gun. there's no shot birds for them. They may train them on shot birds occasionally, but there's no requirement in that game. It's find a bird, point a bird, find a bird, point a bird,
Right.
be steady, be steady, be steady.
Right.
And then I think that dog is just like, good, it's time to go and find another bird.
Yeah.
And I want to ask Scott if that pointer that we saw, which is a legacy dog of his, right? It came in from frozen semen from decades ago, and he knows that dog. I want to get I want to get a lot of retrieving stuff from that pointer world and that trial world. For our own dogs, I had a cocker for a short time, and I used her with Bravo, my oldest dog. He didn't seem to mind it, but he was already 11. So he probably was like, I can't run that fast anymore anyway.
I know.
I can't imagine. I would have a hard time.
But, that's an interesting point that you're alluding to, because we had some guests here from out of town earlier in the week, and she wanted to let her young setter work. And the dog's still young. I think he will be a very good dog with some more training. But
he's young, yeah.
He's young.
Yeah.
But Bella, my short hair that we've been discussing, I could tell was very jealous of him getting near that killed bird.
Yeah.
She'd marked it. She was going to go there and find it.
Yeah.
And, of course, he knew enough to go up close, and she did not like it. This is my bird.
Right.
Stay away.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the mysteries.
It's the mystery.
Thank God they don't talk English, but boy, it sure would be good if they just once in a while whispered something to us.
Yeah, just tell us a little bit,
But so steadiness is something I'm gonna. I try to achieve it to a point, but I'll be completely transparent. There's been a couple of dogs of mine that they were so good at. And they had the opportunities. That's the only thing that makes them good is the opportunities.
Yeah.
They were so good at holding a point that I didn't even have to work on the steadiness to it. They were always good with me flushing, and whether it was in a preserve or a South Dakota pheasant, which the only ones that hold are hens anyway. And I think that dog put it together. Of course, she chased hens when they went up and you can't shoot.
Yeah.
But after enough running after a hen for a quarter mile and coming back, and I would just keep saying no bird. I didn't do any formal no bird training. Like, she just got it. So I was totally happy. And then I was the guy who said, well, no, there's nothing tougher than a ringneck pheasant, a wild ringneck pheasant when it goes down. So everybody's other thing is like, no, I want my dog out there like an outfielder to just miss the line, the ball.
Right.
And is there on top of it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but especially the German lines of dogs, well, you can call them Kurtzers or short hairs. I like to call them short hairs, hairs and wire hairs. Their emphasis in Germany was so much on game recovery.
Yeah.
That's why your dog's so good at it.
Yeah.
Right. That's as important to him, if we could put it in human terms. Getting that bird back in my mouth and back to you is as important to that dog as it is in some dogs just finding the bird.
Absolutely. I can see that in her.
So, I wouldn't take that away from her ever.
No, I'm not going to. But, the beauty of being here at Praise Island is having Scott here with us. And you may have heard me ask him, I've bird hunted every day this week.
Right, you've been busy.
And tomorrow, he'll work with Bella for about 30 minutes.
Right. Yep.
I'll bring a rover.
Session.
We'll put out a couple of birds, and I'll actually shoot.
Yeah.
But
start walking her back to steady a little bit.
Start walking her back to steady.
Yeah. Yeah. I would. His experience. It'll probably be more on you to keep it going, because Scott.
For sure.
Scott will be able to okay, we need here. We might have to go back on a whoa post. I'll get into that when I do Scott. I want to know how his foundation. There's a few ways to train steadiness.
Yeah.
But you're not going to take anything out of that dog other than the fact that you're going to let it get a little spoiled and go like, well, I was steady to shot. But
That's-
so I would shoot for wing.
That's pretty much what happened this
Right. I would
season.
shoot for steady to wing, shot, and fall, and then accept fall going away, and sometimes shot.
Yeah.
But if you don't train for higher, it's like what's the reason somebody has to do 100 push-ups?
Well, the other thing, as I've thought about this, they can be so anxious to retrieve that they really lose their focus on the point.
Right.
I occasionally will see that.
Yeah.
Let's just get that bird up.
Right.
And
Yeah, and in their little head, it's like, I'll tell you what, what would work?
yeah,
I
exactly.
could just do the whole thing. Yeah.
Sure.
Right. So,
But it's wonderful having him here, and during the summer I'll work with him at least once a week with Bella, maybe twice a week.
And I'm sure Scott could give you homework to do for that.
Oh yeah, I've worked with him before.
Right. Like the first thing that jumps out to me is I would work. Come summertime, you got to get up early, right? Before it gets hot.
We do.
I would just work on. I would not introduce any more birds. You'd already know she's got birds.
She doesn't. Yeah.
It's not a question.
Yeah.
I would work on field obedience, range and pattern. Almost get to see if you can kind of turn her into not a windshield wiper dog, but like instead of being out there at 200 yards, and she'll notice you, right? If you turn left, she's like, oh, well, I got to get around to you.
Yeah.
Work on that more. You can put the check cord back on. You don't have to handle the check cord.
Well, I was thinking about that check cord. I'm glad you brought it up because I think she would benefit from that now in terms of
certainly won't hurt.
No, won't hurt her a bit. She's a good, strong dog.
Right.
And I use the check cord more on one of my older dogs, and I am going to reintroduce that.
Yeah.
To her.
It's a reminder to them too.
Sure, and it may slow her down a bit.
It's a point of contact. Yeah. It's a reminder of corrections, and then when she is in close proximity, and you grab that check cord and you pull her like come. She's coming anyway, probably.
Yeah, she will come.
But you still do it anyway, and you kind of let her know that there's always this little connection between you and her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's a trip. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with her. I didn't tell you what she did to me, though, about 2 months ago.
No, what did she do?
When I let her out, and I know there are people who think that every time the dog's out, it needs to be under positive control. And Bella is to a degree, but she needs so much to run, and I have the space around the house, and she will go around at full speed. I mean,
breakneck speed.
Breakneck speed.
There's a reason they gave it that name.
So I'm used to her doing that, and she will come running by me and miss me about 2 feet. Mm-hmm. And one morning, a couple of months ago, I'm out and I'm seeing her come across the yard at breakneck speed.
Right.
I take my eye off of her, and I'm standing on the curb on my driveway. I take my eye off for a second, and boom, she misjudges me. Actually sends me flying. She
checked you, basically.
Back on to the cement.
Oh.
I couldn't get up. I called Sandy, had my Dick Tracy watch on.
She kicked you to the curb? Is that what you're saying?
And fortunately, nothing was broken, but I had a small hamstring tear, which took about a month to heal.
Oh.
But I asked.
That was from the leg going up over your head when you fell?
I have no idea it happened so fast.
My God.
And I asked a friend here, I said, how in the world could this 45-pound dog have sent me flying? And he said, well, you forget your physics equation.
Yeah.
He said, velocity and mass. Mass and velocity.
Right.
I said, I got it.
Yeah. It's not a bullet, but it's a big piece of mass coming at you.
So, but
hey, the upside is she didn't take a hip, right? She didn't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how many people I've talked to though since that happened that have said, "Oh."
I've seen 2 dogs do it to a friend of mine.
Yeah,
like, literally.
you've and particularly if you are up there in age and you're maybe your balance is not quite what it
Sure,
was.
sure.
You've got to be very careful around these dogs, but we still love them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say my prescription would be she would be a candidate for just more obedience, even if it isn't hunting stuff, like some place board work at home and almost making some games.
Yeah.
Like getting her to like, Bella, place. And I use little raised platforms or things I like.
For your pointing dogs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of their precursor. I start with a training table, and then I'll introduce that little short. It's a Cato board. They call it this. Named a company. It's a friend of mine, and it's much more popular in the agility dog world and in the lab world.
Yeah.
And in the flushing dog world. But they work miracles for pointing dogs too, because as long as you don't mind teaching your dog to sit, which some old timers like,
I don't.
I'd never had a problem.
No,
never bothered me a lick. And plus, when I want to take a picture, I want the dog to sit. So, I'll use a couple place boards and I'll have fun with them. I'm like, place. Of course, you got to walk it and do the hand signal. You go there and gets a treat. And then you're walking away and you got to stay there. Then you go to the other place board. Say, okay, comes over there, and it starts being a little bit of a game. But it's also building.
But you've built some discipline,
a little discipline
into her time.
Exactly.
Out of her kennel. I think that's great advice.
Yeah. And if they're food motivated, which most are, I'd be scared if I didn't have a dog that was food at least a hot dog,
Right.
Some of those games almost treat you like, you know what, I want to bring it to the grandkids this week, and I want to show how I can go from first base to second base to third base on these little boards. And the dogs love the stimulation of working with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it might help a little bit in the connectivity.
I think you're exactly right.
She's got a lot of her.
A lot of her and her.
Well, Walter, it's probably we got to start getting ready for lunch here. Have we missed any dog history? I think we got most of them in there.
I think we got it all in.
I really appreciate being out there with you today. It was. I'm a little embarrassed on my shooting. I'll just blame it on the sun.
You shouldn't be embarrassed. I thought you shot very well. So we'll leave it at that.
I missed as well, though.
Hey, look,
all missed as well.
As we said, all it takes is one
BB
split second of distraction.
Oh,
the dog, the bird's flying a little low, the dog, and
Yeah, at least
you've been doing this all your life.
There was no unsafe shots taken today.
No unsafe shots, and we killed a lot of birds today.
Right.
I have no idea how many. I didn't ask them, but
it was a lot.
It was a lot.
I'll get that in when Scott comes in after lunch.
Okay. All right.
Because that dog work is something that was the first time I've seen the pointer flusher.
Yeah.
And from what you've told me, you've been around this game and going to other places, traveling. Same with Chris. That was about as good as the performance gets. It's
as good as the performance gets.
That was amazing.
But a lot of people are doing it. A lot of the commercial places are doing it because it's safer for the guide.
It is. Yep.
Dramatically safer. He can stand back and keep an eye on his hunters, as opposed to being up there trying to flush the birds themselves.
Smaller target, everything. Yeah. No, it was as much fun as I could have on a Thursday morning.
Yeah, my wife accuses me of making her the flusher, but that's not true.
It's not true. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you.